conference. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's so hard to tear myself away from London, but amazing to be here. As always, when I go away, my train trip provided a lovely view of solar panels on many hundreds of roofs all the way here, and reminded me again how far behind we are in London on this, behind the North East and Scotland in total solar capacity, let alone amount per head. And reminded me too how important it is to get our not-for-profit London Energy Company set up and putting solar panels on more of our own roofs. Yorkshire too is putting us to shame, and though my dad is a proud Yorkshireman, I have a duty to make sure London catches up, and I swear that I will if I'm elected mayor on the 5th of May. I'm enjoying a really exciting election campaign so far. Our good ideas for London have been winning lots of support. I've made revolutionary plans to flatten the fare zones so that everyone's journey to work costs the same, no matter where you live in the city. I've also put forward plans to close the tiny but incredibly noisy and polluting blight that is London City Airport and create a new quarter for our city, filled with homes, parks, schools and businesses. Our vision for the airport has won praise from sections of the business press and 13,000 signatures of support, so it must be a good idea, and we have lots more to come. One way in which London is no different from the rest of the country is that we have a crisis of housing. In all our major cities and most of the UK, renting is unaffordable and buying a home is still an impossible dream for many. Including me. I rent my flat, and I've always worked in normal, average jobs. And while I've been in London for the past nearly 20 years, the rent has just gone up and up. Darren Johnson is working a lot on housing for the past 16 years. He's very sadly retiring, along with the equally amazing Jenny Jones. They've put in between them 16 years of service on the London Assembly, and I've got an awful lot to live up to. It's apparently Darren's 53rd Green Party conference this time. My mind is actually boggling at that. And so I want to call him over here now, back again, to receive a small token from the whole party for all his years of service. Thank you, Darren. Jenny Jones will of course continue in the House of Lords, but Darren is off to a whole new career in Hastings. But despite a new life beckoning, Darren has not at all been slacking off in his final months in City Hall. A few weeks ago he released new figures, wrung out of the mayor, which show that estate regeneration schemes given planning permission in London will lead to the net loss of over 7,000 social rented homes in the next couple of years. More than double the number of people are sleeping rough in London now compared with 6 years ago. And last week, the new statistics for England showed nearly 3,600 people were sleeping rough across the country on any one night, up 30% on the number of people just last year. Crisis Shelter, Centre Point, St Mungo's and hundreds of smaller organisations are trying to help. But to give long-term constructive support, they need the funding that the government provides via the benefit system. And this does not cover some very vulnerable groups, including people from the newer EU states. I'm really worried about these people and the harm they are facing. While the vast majority of people coming here to work will stay in work, anyone from the new EU countries who finds themselves in the UK, made redundant from their job, or needing to escape an exploitative boss, is at risk of being left to sleep out in the cold night after night with no claim to any help at all from our state. And the real scandal here, I think, is the fact that there is help available that we as a country are not even accessing. EU funds exist that could help these people, including what's called European aid to the most deprived. It's a pot worth £2.5 billion, and it's available for all member states to claim from to provide material help to people who are most in need. Here, this fund could be used to help destitute EU migrants access the same support as rough sleepers who are UK citizens. And it could also be used to support food banks and other people in severe poverty. But David Cameron opted the UK out of the fund in 2013, and he has refused to apply again, despite calls from poverty campaigners across the country. As with benefit sanctions, this government decision isn't just creating cracks for the most vulnerable people to fall through, it's actively pushing people down into them. It's not humane or compassionate, and as candidate for mayor, I've signed up to the Lead London Home campaign from a coalition of charities, and I join them now in demanding that help is provided for our most vulnerable migrant rough sleepers, so that as mayor, I can end rough sleeping in London. And what do we have for young people who are UK citizens, who are hoping for a better future and a secure home? We have the Housing and Planning Bill. This bill, being generous, was a good chance for the government to rethink things in creative ways and really deal with the housing crisis. But instead their plans are going to make the problem much worse. The Housing and Planning Bill will literally decimate our council homes and social rented sector, depleting housing associations' stock with right to buy, and then costing councils their family-sized homes with the enforced sell-off of high-value properties. The housing bill will do nothing to curb rent rises and nothing to reduce the huge subsidies given to landlords through tax breaks. It's a nonsense of a policy designed to fail to solve the housing crisis and instead line and reline the pockets of the richest investors. Other plans for pay to stay, the new EU deal, housing benefit caps and disability cuts, benefit sanctions, the bedroom tax, these all seem designed to leave more and more people at risk of being left with nothing and nowhere to go. And yet the Tories have the cheek to blame people for becoming homeless. In the face of this government pushing more and more people into poverty, overcrowding and homelessness, with results that could make Dickens or Orwell pick up their pens again and never stop writing, Greens are needed more than ever. Caroline Lucas in Parliament, Natalie Bennett all around the country, and Greens on councils and city governments across the UK are making a difference. We are standing up for migrants and the most vulnerable, fighting on behalf of Generation Rent, pushing for a real living wage and helping to build and preserve our council homes. For London, I'm putting forward plans for 200,000 new homes, half of them built truly affordably by councils, smaller developers, not-for-profits, co-ops and housing associations, on public land that we cannot squander in deals with big developers who only want to build for the investment market. With a Green Mayor, renters' rights will be supported too, with a renters' union and a push for rent controls. And this week I've announced plans for a student living rent, calculated by City Hall and used to strengthen the demands of student campaigners like the rent strikers at UCL. Conference, the election campaign I'm involved in really does give us a unique chance to talk about some really huge issues on a really big stage, and to talk about the achievements of some truly excellent elected Greens. Jenny and Darren are so highly respected in London, and so highly respected by you, I know. And in a couple of months' time, we have a real chance in London of winning the highest Green vote there ever to cement their legacy. We have the good ideas that millions of citizens tired of the same old two-horse race are crying out for, with fresh thinking, strong values and a real vision of how we can give London back to its people. I know you'll be cheering me on, and I'll be cheering on all the Green candidates standing to be mayors this year. With the power of our good ideas, we can build better cities together. Thank you.